Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it. We'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, it's Tom here, and today is Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, and here we are looking at markets, and unfortunately I'm not going to have a lot of great news for you, but if you are here to listen to what I have to say, I'll kind of tell you what's going on in all the markets. So right off the bat, copper has taken a very large turn on the downward side. This morning when we're recording this, we're trading at $3.59. Now, to give you a perspective, about a month ago, copper was at $4.17. So we're looking at a decrease of almost 60 cents per pound in about a 30-day period. And we're now looking at copper prices that are hitting, 6-month lows, if not going lower than this. I believe actually 6-year lows. No, that's not true. That's COVID. 6-month lows. Sorry. I read a lot of different things. So, copper prices are trending downwards, and there's a lot of reasons why they're trending downwards, and we'll talk about some of them now. This U.S. debt ceiling, whether you like listening to the news or you don't, things happen and they affect markets in major ways. Here we are 8 days away from June 1st, and Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, is saying, "Oh, if we don't get something approved, the U.S. isn't going to be able to pay their debt." And many people will say, "Well, what does that have to do with copper?" Well, the U.S. dollar is really the currency throughout the world that everyone focuses and bases their currencies and their trading on. So if the United States can't pay their bills, right? Think about what would happen to your credit rating if you couldn't pay for your car payments, your mortgages, your rent, your credit card, your water bill, your utility bills. And I could continue to go on. I'm not talking about Netflix subscriptions. I'm talking about major things that impact your life. You don't pay your credit card bill, well, then they're going to turn your credit card off. You don't pay your car bill, they're going to repo your car. You don't pay your mortgage, they're going to take your house away, right? And that's what could happen to the United States, where if they aren't able to pay their bills on previous loans, whether they were subsidized programs, active community, could even be salaries for government employees, programs that happened in the past that we're paying for in the future, right? Every time that the United States takes out more money, the president, whoever it is, whatever party, doesn't matter, takes out their budget. And if they're spending more money than they're getting in, that's an issue. I think I heard the number yesterday that in 2022, the United States took in $4.7 trillion in taxes. Wow, that's so much money. But they spent $6.2 trillion in the same year. So that immediately created a $1.5 trillion deficit that has to get borrowed from us, the taxpayers. Interest gets placed on that. And as the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, we have floating interest rates for the United States. So what happens is those floating interest rates get applied to these larger balances, which make the balances go higher. And that is the reason we're seeing such a problem in the commodity space, because the world is watching us and trying to figure out what's going on. Now, there's been really interesting things going on where some countries are hedging their bets against the US dollar and starting to buy more Chinese yuan. Well, why is that significant? As they move away from the US dollar and they move more towards maybe a potential more stable Chinese yuan, you could just see kind of a shift of power taking place. And that also is going to affect the commodities prices. Now, if the United States is not paying their debt, the commodities such as copper, aluminum, brass, steel, etc., that's a worldwide problem, because the U.S. owes the world. It's not just, we owe ourselves this debt. We loan money out, we take money in, we do things, and if they can't pay it in other places, that's going to be a problem for commodities. And that's kind of why we're seeing such a decrease in the copper prices. Now, what I do expect to have happen is if they do have some type of decision this week, because I was listening to Speaker McCarthy saying that if something is resolved by the time Memorial Day weekend comes around, then that gives Congress next week to be able to enact it, get it into law, and raise the debt ceiling. And if that happens, I do expect a quick jump in the copper prices, 10, 15, 20 cents because that kind of shores up some of the insecurity that is out there. But currently, here we are, May 24th, we might see that go down. Now, if they do come to a deal, copper prices might shoot up, but I also think that they're going to shoot back down afterward. It's going to be a little bit of I think the phrase is like a dead cat bounce. And we might see a quick shoot up, but I also think we're going to see a shoot down. So that's why tuning into our daily price alerts through iScrap, checking out the website, listening to these weekly reports will help you learn about the prices and give you a little more power when it comes to negotiating with the scrapyards on copper markets. Now, other markets, let's talk about steel. Another huge market that has had a real downward trend the last few months. And over the last week, I've made a real effort to call about 10 different people that trade in the thousands of tons of steel a month and get their kind of pulse on the market. Now, I've talked to people from large publicly traded companies, smaller privately held companies, and also brokers that don't have a physical location but move steel all over the place. A lot of their sentiments are saying that the people out of Turkey that buy a lot of steel, they were a little slower to pull the trigger for a little while. They had some energy problems. Their energy was more expensive, and more expensive energy means more expensive steel to refine and costs more money. And the problem was they weren't able to unload their finished products fast enough. And without unloading their finished products fast enough, they weren't able to get revenue in. That was one of the reasons we saw some of the downturns in the last couple of months. Now, I've also heard that people out of Turkey are now buying a lot more steel. A few more barges came in on the East Coast, which is where I'm located. So I have more East Coast knowledge than I do Southern or Western knowledge in the United States. But there are more barges coming in, which means the market is still active and people are still moving material. The U.S. mills and the production here in the United States, that's a problem that is going to continue to affect scrap prices, as we've seen the steel piling up at the different U.S. foundries and the different U.S. mills that are recycling and remelting steel. Now, that's going to really pricing on heavy grades of steel, number one, unprepared, PNS, things like that. So we are going to see those markets continuing to be kind of at the levels that they are at. But the good news is we are seeing a little market pickup, price increase in the last few days. So we've seen $5 to $20 a ton added on different grades in different parts of the country. And that will start to be reflected the end of May, the beginning of June. Either a flat market or slightly up going into June. Again, a good thing. But overall, we're watching the steel markets, and oil and energy prices are starting to take their way back up going into the summertime, which is a traditional thing that has always happened as people have their kids getting out of school, people travel more. Planes, trains, and automobiles have more gas going into them. And regardless about the electrification, gas is still needed very heavily, especially diesel for these big trucks. So steel prices flat, maybe up, but that's good news considering we saw down, down, down in a lot of the doom and gloom for the last few weeks. I'd like to tell you about a scrap story right now. I know someone called me out last week because I forgot about it. Sometimes when I have so much stuff to share, I forget about, the scrap story of the week. So a few years ago, I don't remember when, because fortunately I've been doing this for a long time. I had a gentleman that used to work at a crematorium, showed up to my yard, called and said, "Do you guys buy scrap gold and other types of materials?" Yeah, we buy that stuff. Just assuming that he meant electronics. So he pulls up and he had a couple of 5-gallon buckets and he pulls them out. And one of them has these black charred pieces. And I go, "What are these?" He goes, "That's titanium." I go, "Oh, that's funny." I take out our XRF analyzer and I analyze it. And sure enough, it's titanium. And I go, "Why is it black?" He goes, "Well, it got burnt." I go, "Well, that's funny." He goes, "Here's the other bucket of gold." And I open it and it's just gold cap teeth, right? No teeth left, just these gold caps. And I go, "Where'd this stuff come from?" He goes, "Well, I work at a crematorium." I go, "Oh, I have a problem buying things from dead people. I'm not really sure if I want to get involved in this." And I realized that the titanium were pieces from, knee replacements and elbows and bones and joints and things like that. And then the gold teeth were pretty self-explanatory. It was just gold. And he goes, well, I have other people that buy this stuff. I go, well, I'm going to step back. And there have been very few times where I turn customers away. This was one of those times where, you kind of get those goosebumps on you, because even though someone's going to buy that gold and someone's going to remelt it and someone's going to get the titanium, it wasn't going to be me that day. And I will tell you, I've had other friends that own scrap yards that have had similar relationships. And a lot of these crematoriums throughout the country, they get this and they are able to sell it. It's just only to a select group of people that will actually refine it down into gold. Scrap yards generally are not the right people or the people that commonly get these things. But it was one of those weird things that happened, and I thought I'd share it today. So I'd love to hear your reactions. What else is going on with the markets? Well, if copper is down, that means insulated wire is down and brass is down. So we've seen those markets on the decline. Yellow brass prices anywhere from $1.80 to $1.95, about a 10 to 15 cent drop over the last few weeks. Red brass, again, another 15 cents off. We're looking at 210, 225, maybe 230 on red brass, which is also known as bronze, or also known as composition. So there's kind of the pricing on those markets. Aluminum further weakening. I mentioned last week about some of the Russian material potentially having an issue in the London Metal Exchange. That problem has not gone away over the last 7 days. We're continuing to monitor it. But like anything, sometimes news happens overnight. And kind of leading off of that news happening overnight. We're located in the state of New Jersey, and everyone knows that we have subsidiary rrcats.com. Well, New Jersey overnight enacted a law where we've been talking with lawmakers about it, and a kind of a quick vote came up, and they passed a new law requiring VIN numbers and another form of identification when selling catalytic converters. Now, what was interesting about this is New Jersey was not the first state to do this. They were following other states throughout the country's lead. And this is similar to something that happened back in the early 2000s, in that 2004 to 2007 area. If you remember, when copper prices shot up really quickly, people were stealing all types of things. Common things were air conditioners right outside of people's houses, and then even live wires where people were electrocuted and sometimes melted because of the heavy voltage, because people were stealing the copper. And unfortunately, when prices go up on certain things, like it did in copper in the early 2000s, everyone now has to provide a state-issued or government-issued ID in all 50 states throughout the United States. When catalytic converter prices went up end of 2020 into 2021, and thousands, if not millions of individuals were affected, having thieves cutting the cats off their cars, states such as New Jersey and the other 49 started to immediately work on laws to help curb the sales of illegally stolen catalytic converters. So rrcats.com, many of you have sold to us. We do ID verification, and we're going to follow all the new ordinances, because we're not here to help propagate thieves in any way, shape, or form. So we want to buy from real people, so you can know when you sell to us, not only do we provide you a free 10-day price lock, free price quotes, free shipping on all OEM catalytic converters, you can know that we're following all the different laws that are kind of put into place, and the prices have still been strong on the catalytic converter side. So as people get used to these new laws, you can check out rrcats.com, sign up for the newsletter, and see a bunch of stuff about some of these new laws that are being instituted in New Jersey and eventually all 50 states, because we actively monitor these laws and scrap laws throughout the country. All 50 states are going to have this as well. Now, let's talk about prices of catalytic converters, which are relatively flat over the last week. Rhodium is down about 2%. Platinum is up about 1%. And palladium is about even. So those prices being kind of even week over week, we still have an average price around $115 for an OEM catalytic converter. What's nice is platinum prices are really up. I was looking at prices from August of 2022, where platinum was around $890 an ounce. Well, today we're looking at platinum prices that are around $1,050 an ounce. And if you look at that, that's about a 25% increase in about a 9 or 10 month span. So that's really good, because most gas catalytic converters are using platinum and palladium. Now, when rhodium prices went sky high, upwards of $30,000 per ounce, that's when a lot of the diesel catalytic converter prices really took off because they're loaded with more rhodium. But what we're seeing now is with the platinum prices up, yeah, we know that the prices aren't close to what they were at, a year and a half ago, back in 2021, but they're still really strong, and they're still stronger than they were pre-2020, which is a good thing with those platinum prices up. Now, one thing that could happen is if we start to see more of this debt restructuring, we may start to see platinum going down because some people, like investors, have put more money into the precious metals, platinum and gold. You've seen gold prices hovering around $2,000 an ounce. And a lot of that is because they put it into safe havens. It's like a lot of people right now are taking money and putting them into CDs because they can get 3 to 5% fixed income off of that money. Investors are doing the same to gold and the platinum because they're really they're not really confident in some markets right now. A lot of people are talking about the stock market, for instance, really kind of being propped up on false premises, and they're still thinking that we're going to see a decline. But until that happens, you don't know. Sometimes balls drop overnight, and you just don't know. We had a few banks default. You saw some insecurities in the markets, and these are all things that affect commodity prices. Other markets, that gold, like I mentioned, around $2,000 an ounce. So electronic prices have been relatively steady. We've seen the price on computer towers between 15 and 25 cents a pound. Now, it was interesting because we did a safety meeting this morning at my shop, and we also did a material spotlight. And today we spotlighted all-in-one computers. Now, all-in-one computers may seem like they're similar to laptops, but they still have some larger components in them. And what we've found as an R2 buyer that's kind of certified in electronic scrap, the all-in-ones are better than computer towers, but not as good as laptops. Laptops have smaller circuits and higher processors in them, smaller ways, they're more expensive to make. Sometimes you can reuse some of the laptop screens. And a lot of the all-in-one computers, such as the Apple Macs and some larger ones, HP does a lot of them as well. They're made a little cheaper, plastic frames, not as much metal on them, but they don't have batteries inside of them. That's a good thing because you don't have to worry about lithium or anything like that. But contact your scrapyard, ask how they buy and ask how they differentiate laptops, computer towers, and all-in-ones because they may be three different categories. We, for instance, don't mix them with our computer towers or with our laptops. And the same goes for iPads. When iPads and other tablets start to get recycled, those are things that you're going to want to actively ask your scrapyard about. We're like 10 or 11 years into the iPad revolution. So we're starting to see a lot of those coming into scrap, and you may start to see those as well. So make sure you reach out to your scrapyard and you ask about some of the problems with recycling them, if there's anything that you need to know about in advance. Overall, scrappers, we've had a fairly stable week over week. I know copper prices are down, but we've kind of been saying this for a little while. So our advice this week is really to hold for a couple of weeks, see where the markets are going to go. If you are a YouTube member, we have a couple of videos coming out with some forward predictions on the copper prices. So if you want to learn more about looking into 2024 and even 2025 copper markets, you can become a member and check those videos out today. Other than that, scrappers, is Tom. Today's Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. Have a happy Memorial Day. Until next week, I'll scrap you later. Oh, that's fun.
You're on live.
Thank you. Another trip around the sun. Yeah. Everyone's saying to me this morning, my face was probably as red as my shirt. Believe it or not, when you go in front of people, sometimes you get a little embarrassed, regardless of how often you do presentations, you speak. So yes, it's my birthday. If you're looking to do anything, donate to St. Jude Children's Hospital. It's my favorite charity. We donate there every single month. I actually have a post going out on LinkedIn tomorrow, talking about people sharing that I will be happy to So I'll throw this out there. If you show us or you email us that you donated to St. Jude's, iScrap will match every donation up to $5,000. Scrappers, thank you so much. Until next week, I'll scrap you later. Thanks for checking out this scrap video. For more exclusive scrap video content, please become a YouTube member of our channel today. Thank you, and I'll scrap you later.